Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around, we finished off The Talons of Wang Chiang. What was that one about?
Well, it turns out, I think we left off at the end of episode 3. Leela was being threatened by the giant rat of Sumatra, but the Doctor and Dr. Lightfoot and Mr. Jago discover the goings-on down beneath the theater. And they basically chase around the bad guy, who turns out not to be a Time Lord or the Master, but someone from the 51st century who had somehow invented a time cabinet, which had somehow ended up in the 19th century. And anyway, it all gets resolved. It was one of our favorite episodes in quite a while.
Yeah.
Very Sherlock Holmes. And we thought there should have been a spin-off with Jago and Lightfoot.
Yeah, definitely. So... they also had the Peking homunculus, which was the explanation for Mr. Sin. It was a bit much. You could have just... I mean, I don't know, like... I guess, that's rich coming from us, when we're always like, oh, no, you gotta explain it. And I was just sitting here like, you could have just said it was a living doll or something. Or just like it was a person, but no, it was some sort of homunculus that he also brought back in time with him. So, yeah. Anywho, we're on to season 15 today.
Yay.
You know what I've also just noticed? Both of our voices sound worse for wears.
Well, yeah, it's been one of those weeks.
Yeah. So, and last week, I filmed so much last week that I just didn't have time to do one episode, so I'm just having to skip it for a week. But on top of that, I think just talking so much got me a little sick. So we're both a bit... It's going to be a bit of a low energy. It's also not the normal day that we record these.
No.
We normally do these on Saturdays, but today we're doing it on Sunday. So we're both very low energy, which is great going into 4 episodes of Doctor Who.
Oh, dear.
So,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I was enjoying, actually, having 3 episodes for the Talons of Wang Chiang. And now I guess I honestly understand why there are some reaction channels out there that only do like 2 episodes per video. They're slow as molasses, but it means they're not overdoing it. So good for them.
And next week, well, I will be even more frazzled because I start rehearsals for a Territorial Christmas Carol tomorrow. Plus, I think I've mentioned, took on a new job in my retirement as co-managing director of a local community theater here. Just plus ordinary everyday stuff that we do. So,
yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Let's just point out the contradiction of you got a new job in your retirement. So,
well, yeah, it was one of those things where we have worked at the theater literally since 1983. Your mom and I did our first show there, at the same show together in '83, and we've worked there on and off as actors and directors. I even they did one of my scripts there as a playwright. And we've always said, if the opportunity came up, if they lost their previous managing director, we'd apply for it. And as it turned out, right after we retired, their managing director moved on to a new job, and so we thought, what the heck, we'll apply for it. We won't get it, and we got it. So,
yeah. So that's his story of why he's tired, and mine is just that every show decided to start at the same time. So I'm just about to finish House of the Dragon. I'm in the middle of Andor. I've had to delay Andor. I was just like, I'm putting off. Also, and this is not a call to action or anything, nobody watches my Star Wars reactions. It's almost magical how much nobody cares. Like, they'll care about everything else, but Star Wars nobody cares about for some reason. So I was just like, you know what? Nobody's gonna miss if I don't do Andor. So I delayed that. I've got MHA. We've got the new... Oh, goodness. We've got next Sunday, the final 13th Doctor episode airs. And it's going to be like 90 minutes long. So there's something I don't need right now. But and I think it's supposed to be like for the 100th anniversary of the BBC.
Yeah.
So
I heard that too.
Yeah.
And when does the 14th Doctor start up? Do we know?
I'm not entirely sure, because there's speculation that the 14th Doctor's first episode may be the 60th anniversary next year, but I don't know why they can't hammer out a couple episodes of this guy before then, because, 60th anniversary, that's a big thing, and to make it his first episode is kind of odd.
That would be November of next year, and it's only October of this year, so that's 13 months away.
And they've known this since, May or April, so, for some reason, I don't know why, maybe I just don't know how long it takes to make a Doctor Who season, but I know, at the very least, they're also doing a special with David Tennant. So I don't know if that's going to be the 60th or it's just going to be a part of the 60th anniversary. So I don't know. The jury's still out on when. I mean, there's also the fact that I think a week ago they announced when the 13th Doctor's last episode was going to air. Everyone was just kind of sitting here okay, we assume it's going to be in October, but they haven't said anything. Apparently marketing has been terrible for it, so I don't know. Maybe the BBC wants to sweep that under the rug. But you know who won't sweep it under the rug? Me, because I'm going to watch it. And 10 years from now, he'll watch it too. So, in the meantime, we're going to be watching Horror of Fang Rock to start off season 15. Which, because it's the beginning of the season, this whole episode is available in full length for free. You should know the whole rigmarole by now, but if not, just go down in the description or into the pinned comment. There's a link there. There's no show footage for you because that's completely illegal for me to just give you all 4 episodes. But there are ways to find it. We're watching this on BritBox on Amazon Prime. You can use normal BritBox, UK BritBox. You can find the show through other means, but you didn't hear that from me. And all you have to do is sync up your copy of this episode of Doctor Who to our footage, and you get to listen to us just kind of not say anything for 10 minutes, and then maybe say a funny joke. So
Maybe.
Yeah,
we do tend to babble a lot that Alex does not put into the final cut. So
I do cut some stuff, especially when it's 4 episodes, and I really have to cut the footage down. So sometimes, if we ask a question or something, I just cut that out. So if you want to hear the questions we ask, you can go do that. Anywho, anything else?
I'm just looking at the new thumbnail for the 15th season.
Yeah.
And the Doctor looks like he's wearing a brown, it's not quite a stovepipe hat, but certainly very different from the cap that he was, the Sherlock Holmes cap that he was wearing in the last thumbnail. So it'll be interesting to see what this is.
Yeah. So let's find out.
All right.
As we jump into this episode of Doctor Who. Here we go.
Nothing there now.
Oh, not now, maybe. I told you it went under the sea.
But it could have been a, what do they call them? Meteor.
Weren't far off.
Oh! Sightseeing now, are we? Over to spot some of them bathing bells on the beach, eh?
Well, Vince here has been seeing stars.
You're not going to be on the beach in weather like that.
Yeah. At 2 a.m.
Great clouds of black smoke soon as they were lit.
If your electricity's so good, why are they going back to oil? You tell me that.
And now that's an oil vapor system. That's a different thing altogether. They're going back to that as they reckon as how that's cheaper, see?
Of course it's cheaper. Time they played out all that coal.
Down on the right looks a little bit like Terry Jones from Monty Python.
King Edward, eh? Well, Your Majesty, will you tell the Principal Keeper that there's a fog coming up here like nobody's business?
The old Fresnel lens. We've seen some of those in the lighthouses we visited on the East Coast.
There weren't no sign of that earlier.
In the vast thousands of lighthouses we've climbed.
Let's go and see for myself.
Never mind. Easy enough to pop back in and try again. That's odd.
What is?
Lighthouse. Without a light.
Yeah. At that point, it's just a house.
The generator's working. I wonder what's happening to the power.
I'm not a technician,
It could be shorting out, I suppose.
and I suppose you are going to mend it?
What? Without asking permission? I wouldn't dream of it. Let's talk to the crew first. This way. Technician.
Oh, he must have stepped out for a moment. You missed him in the fog.
If he had been there, I would have heard.
Better go and look for him.
No, that's all right, that's all right. What's your name?
Vince, sir. Vince Hawkins.
Yes, I'll go, Mr. Hawkins. I'm something of a engineer myself. I might be able to help. You look after the young lady.
Right, you are.
Just gonna steal that Darby, are you? Carried her knife under that dress, did she?
I guess.
A sea creature?
What? It can open and shut doors? Doesn't so much as leave a wet footprint, eh? Has the ability to drain off electricity?
What is wrong?
That's Ben's lantern.
I mean, my first instinct is Cybermen, but I feel like they would have been in the title.
I wonder if Fang Rock's down on Land's End somewhere.
I was almost going to say maybe it'll be the Daleks, but the Daleks aren't stealthy. It's the weakest cliffhanger they've ever had. A boat crashed.
Well, but you can hear the voices on the ship, so obviously
Yeah.
there's some people there. I was wondering if they were going to have more than just 4 people in these 4 episodes.
Yeah.
But you have to admit, I mean, as far as atmospherics are concerned, the lighthouse looks very authentic.
Yeah.
It's very dark and moody, and when Leela went out there amongst the rocks, now of course all the lighthouses we've seen are not built out on the craggy land like it Land's End. The ones we've seen are all on the beach. The lighthouse at Cape Hatteras, the one up on Cape Cod, and several of the others that we've seen, none of them look like that. But that inside structure is pretty much what we've seen in all of them.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess just the whole thing with the crash. It's not a terrible cliffhanger, I suppose. You just kind of expect to hear or see some sort of hint at what's causing this, Because I'm trying to think, especially just with the POV shot we get is like, is that Cybermen? And I'm thinking like, well, we kind of see that with Daleks sometimes. Like, those two, why would they be this is like a terrible place for ground attraction. Like, I don't think they could get around, but the electricity, so it's like I'm trying to think, but other than that, it's like, well, yeah, we had a ship crash and there are people on it, but other than that, I don't know. It's not the greatest cliffhanger we've ever had, So, but other than that, it was a fine enough episode.
Yeah, and the characters are interesting. It's too bad what was his name died.
Ben.
But Vince and the old man, I mean, it's, I don't want to say that they're just so stereotypical, but that's what you would expect on a lighthouse in the late 1800s or early 1900s. I got to thinking, when the old man, what's his name?
Reuben.
When Reuben mentioned the frogs and the Ruskies and the Germans, that's very much leading up to World War One, especially the Germans. So, I mean, again, it looks late 1800s, but this could be somewhere between 1900 and 1914.
Yeah, so. And plus just with the whole, the difference of oil and electricity, that is clearly a recent sort of conversion at this lighthouse. So.
And they've got a Marconi, so again, that could be any time after 1880, I would expect. I don't remember the exact time of Marconi's wireless radio, what we would now think of as radio.
Yeah.
So. It's an onion.
Yeah.
Give me a brandy, young fella.
You don't need no brandy, sir.
Hot soup's a ticket for you.
Don't tell me what I need. Oh, damn it, hasn't anyone a flask round here?
You see to him, Vince. I'd better get up to that lamp.
I'm getting out of this.
Do you think you could show me the spot?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
Good. Don't tell the others. We don't want to start a panic.
Starting a panic.
What do you reckon be going on, mister?
Well, when I find out, I'll let you know.
I wouldn't try to find out. Tain't wise.
What do you mean?
Reckon I know what you've seen. They always said the beast of Fang Rock would be back.
Okay.
Mr. Fang Rock.
The fact remains that the light was not working. Oh, there'll be an inquiry, I assure you.
The inquiry's already begun. Move over.
What inquiry?
What are you talking about? Just you stay here. All of you. Harker, you try and get some rest.
Well, that's not ominous.
Speaks of
The girl is very strange, too.
I don't know about strange, but she's not a bad looker.
Perfectly grotesque, in my view. You were a long time in India, Colonel.
Long enough, my dear, to learn to appreciate nature.
Very good incidental music.
Well,
I kept my side of the bargain. I gave you the information you wanted. I was a fool and a scoundrel, but I did it. And you tore up my IOUs.
What use is your blasted information if I can do nothing with it?
Quite. That's rather amusing, isn't it?
I could still expose you.
Yes, but if the information's never used, where's the proof I ever gave it? And you're forgetting something else.
What?
I'm an officer and a gentleman, Henry. You're a nobody. A jumped-up little money grubber for all your title.
Do you think the creature will come?
I didn't think we were going to get, like, money and politics issues between mustached men. Boy, that is a gift to fall asleep in a chair.
Wake up.
This lighthouse is under attack, and by morning we might all be dead. Anyone interested?
You at least have a soldier there.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got a military man.
Yeah, and Leela. That's better than we normally have.
Yeah, rude. You don't really think what happened before, back in the 20s? You don't really think it's happening again, do you?
There's three of us. There were three of them. Two dead and one mad. And Ben's dead, isn't he?
Okay. 1820s plus 80 years, early 1900.
Yeah.
Beast.
There's always death on this rock when the beast's about.
That preposterous rubbish. What is the fool saying?
I'm saying it's happened before. It'll happen again.
Superstitious idiot. If we're expected to take notice of some fisherman's tale.
Silence! You will do as the doctor instructs, or I will cut out your heart.
You heard what she said.
Is this the end of Reuben?
I know.
I don't understand. Lord Palmerdale, what is happening?
Nothing, my dear. Absolutely nothing is happening here.
Devil is that?
It was a little bit better of a cliffhanger.
Well, you're right. I never would have expected a shipload of aristocrats to crash on the island.
Yeah, but I see now that the reason they did crash was so that we would have more characters after we kill off all the lighthouse people. So, which is unfortunate because I kind of like the lighthouse people a bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, this whole thing of was it Lord Palmerdale?
Yeah.
And his mustache and his money that he needs to deal with, which is interesting. And at least the other guy, at least he is a military guy, so it could be of use. So
We should see what his name is. Guys, there. Skin Sail?
I think so.
Yeah, because Harker's the ship captain.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, it's also interesting that we're halfway through and we really haven't seen what we're fighting, you know?
Other than the large object trailing some roots, it looked like.
Yeah, so, or some weird entrails that it's leaving behind. But I mean, it's an interesting story.
Yeah.
So, it's still, I mean, it's still kind of in that vein that the last episode was, of this sort of, darker mystery thing going on. Not quite the, Sherlock Holmes story, but just an interesting sort of thing. So,
now, since it was round, and since the point of view we always see is like of something looking out of an iris, and those things trailing behind could have been nerves. So, is this like a giant eyeball from space?
That would be weird. How does it kill? Maybe
It's taking the light, taking the electricity, the energy out of people. I don't know exactly. Yeah, it's just
maybe. It's a strange one. It's not now. And when we say it's not the greatest story ever, we're still enjoying it.
Yeah.
We're still enjoying it. It's just we're just kind of puzzled by it. So
like I say, it's good for what the BBC is famous for. There's great sets, the sound effects, the incidental music, and we're just waiting to see what's next.
Yeah.
When he crosses himself, it looked like he missed one. Yeah, it's like you got to do 4 of them.
I don't understand. Lord Palmerdale,
It's the
what
4
is happening?
parts of the cross.
Absolutely.
You see, in the space surrounding an electrically charged body, there occurs an electric potential which is proportional to the charge Q, and inversely proportional to resistance R from the center.
It's just me in math class.
What? £100? That'd be a fortune. I don't want to get mixed up in nothing wrong. Look, I'm a businessman. How could there be anything wrong?
Those two do not go together.
Businessmen think they do. Uh-oh.
Casually going up the side of the lighthouse.
What do you reckon, Ruby?
I could kill so many people with this.
You're about to get eyeballed there, Palmerdale.
Huh.
No right to say such things, Colonel. Chip and tell him just what a perfidious so-called friend you are.
I thought you might.
Oh, going to send a message to London, are you?
Look, there's a monster going around. We don't really have time for your.
Oh no, I think he's going to send something that will ruin Palmerdale.
Yeah,
Reuben, hear me.
but there's a monster.
Reuben!
So then Harker keeps the boiler still.
Why doesn't the doctor use the sonic screwdriver on the lock?
There's no one in the lamp room except a keeper. Go back to the crew room.
I must find him.
Get back to the crew room!
So you have to understand, he's the bark, she's the bite. You're just gonna burn the money?
Any evidence?
Leela, get Harker up here, then try and find Palmer.
What's happened?
He says he thinks Lord Palmerdale's fallen from the lamp gallery.
Oh, jeez!
Really, you can't.
Leela, stay here. Come on.
Stop doing that. She's so useful. She slapped her. It was great.
Has she never seen death before?
Oh, Barry!
Adelaide, too long. You must be brave. Adelaide?
Take your hands off me! You did it! You killed him!
Me?
Slap her.
You went out after him!
How are you feeling now?
I don't trust anybody who would smile like that.
That would mean that this creature can climb sheer walls.
Not only can it climb sheer
Would that
walls,
be S-H-E-E-R?
it's amphibious. It has some affinity with electricity and a technological ability to adapt its environment to optimum thermal level. Are you following me?
Interstellar jellyfish.
No.
I'm not staying here.
No. Yeah. Aw, poor Harker.
His son Jonathan will later travel to Transylvania.
No. Can you trick it into the boiler and burn it?
That does seem to be the only source of heat.
Yeah.
I thought that was the coal room, but it looks incredibly large.
Leave it, I'd made a terrible mistake. I thought I'd locked the enemy out. Instead, I've locked it in. With us.
Ooh, nice. Lycanthropy, though, that's werewolves. Please tell me this isn't the blue werewolves.
Not the green jellyfish werewolves instead. So, you know, when is this one gonna go up? What day is today?
16th?
16th. This is going up on Halloween. Because I was gonna say, I was like, man, this is a nice October Halloween kind of episode, and I just looked over, and sure enough, this is going up on Halloween. So happy Halloween, by the way. Yeah, this honestly is very spooky enough for Halloween. So it's still a bit strange. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to come across like I'm not enjoying this. I am. It's so strange that it's like there's a mystery, but the mystery is like, I mean, this is gonna sound stupid. We don't know what it is, but what can we figure out that it is, and how do we beat it? You know, I don't know how to explain how. I don't know how to put this into words, really.
Well, normally the electricity thing, you would short circuit it.
Yeah.
Water will do that, but it seems to thrive in water. So I think what he said, heat may be the way to do it. If he can find some way of getting it into the boiler room and then blowing it up, which might, topple the entire lighthouse.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's possibly the best way, although they do have those flares, which might be able to do it.
Yeah.
By the way, just happened to read this morning. The celebration that we think of as Halloween, the way we celebrate it originally started in Ireland. And people over there, in order to keep the bad spirits away, used to carve really ugly faces into turnips because they were the largest vegetable, basically, that grew there. But when the Irish emigrated to the United States in the 1800s, there weren't a lot of turnips over on the East Coast. The largest thing that they could find were pumpkins, and that's when they started carving the faces on the pumpkins to keep the evil spirits away. But the original jack-o'-lantern was a giant turnip.
There's something about that that's not quite as cool, but
again, if I can find the picture of it, but if you will, you can probably Google a picture of a jack-o'-lantern turnip, and it's much scarier than a pumpkin. Trust me on that.
All right then. I mean, I say that, it doesn't sound like it would be as cool. The idea of a jack-o'-lantern is kind of goofy when you really stop and think about it. It's a face carved into a pumpkin, So, but good job, Irish, on inventing Halloween. So,
well, the practice of the All Hallows Eve and All Hallows Day goes way back before that. But the celebration of it, the way we understand it now, it was more of a relatively modern invention, mostly practiced originally by the Irish.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, there were German. There's an opposite end of the year, sometime in March, if I recall correctly, that the Germans and the Central European states used to practice called Walpurgis Night, which is again where all the evil spirits come out and you have to keep them at bay and so forth. But again, it's been years since I've taught any of that. So
yeah, and didn't we also have something like that as a Third Doctor episode with the demons or something? There was some sort of like Halloween-esque holiday they were celebrating, and then there was like the witches and the hill that was uncovered and the master was there. Another kind of goofier episode, but it was a fun episode. So yeah.
Now the thing about this that makes this different from the Talons of Wing Chiang is that one, even though it was 6 parts, had a lot of humor in it. It was very light. Yeah. There's very little lightheartedness in this. This is very dark and very dreary. But I mean, again, I think that was what they were going for because you have a completely different perspective here. Again, they're all cloistered on this rock. There's no way off. It's, again, I hate to bring up Agatha Christie because people are going to criticize me for it, but it's one by one they're slowly being murdered, and who will survive.
Yeah. So I will say probably the funniest moment in that episode in particular is Leela just slapping her. So I have to assume that was in the script, but just how quickly Leela did that was just amazing.
She does not suffer fools gladly.
Yeah, it's very interesting having Leela as a companion. So aww. So there's two Rubens?
It's Chameleon.
They copied him. I get you. Okay.
Don't let your scarf get near that turning wheel.
It's some kind of power relay.
Does it belong to the alien?
Yes. Rule 1, after surviving a crash landing, set up distress beacon. To do that, it would have needed a power source. That's why it came here. There must be a signal modulator somewhere transmitting.
Oh, more are coming.
Is Parker dead?
Yes, like the others. The creature has got into the lighthouse. Now we must fight for our lives.
Greatest eye roll in Doctor Who history. Interesting shot.
It's a heck of a way to hide.
Back, get back!
I hope there's a shot of her throwing the knife and it not doing anything, so that this is a running thing.
Run!
Every time.
You know our form?
Well, when you've seen one Bruton, you've seen them all.
We are a Reuben scout. We are specially trained in the new metamorphosis techniques.
We're totally not
Well, I
Daleks.
expect you'll get better. You're at last losing that interminable war with the Santarans.
That's what they were.
Is it?
The planet is obscure, but its strategic position is sound. We shall use it as a launch point for our final assault on the Santaran rabble.
I mean, go to Mars.
But if you set up...
We scouted all the planets of this solar system. Only this one suits our purpose.
I can understand your military purposes.
Well, at least they said that.
But why murder a handful of harmless humans?
The ship will home in on the primary signal.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. I fixed that as well, Oyster Fizz.
All your interference is useless.
What kept you?
The time for talk is over.
Correct.
Why don't we use this?
What?
This?
That? Are you suggesting I convert the carbon arc beam?
Well, obviously.
Yeah, that.
That's a beautiful notion.
Yay. I'm so proud of
Unfortunately, I need a
herself.
focusing device.
Maybe you should have kept the bipedal look. Well, good job. Now you've lost everybody.
And the Colonel?
Dead with honor.
Then at least we have avenged him.
Was it honor?
Eerie bubbling.
No.
Let's just see a massive goo.
Enjoy your death as I enjoyed killing you.
We die for the glory of our race. Long live the Roman Empire!
Must be a really fun part to play.
Dull crunch.
Wet squelching.
just under 2 minutes to get back to the TARDIS.
No. Oh, yeah, be sure you get your knife.
Oh, we're going to see the lighthouse blow up too.
That'll teach them.
No. Oh.
I thought I told you not to look back.
No.
Slay me, Doctor.
What?
I'm blind. Slay me now. It is the fate of the old and crippled.
Neither old nor crippled. The effects of the flash will pass.
You're sure?
Your eyes have changed color.
What colour are they?
Blue. Aye, though we hunted high and low, and hunted everywhere, the three men's fate, we found no trace. In any time, in any place, but a door ajar and an untouched needle, and an over-toppled chair.
Alrighty.
Well, that was definitely the best of the 4 episodes.
Well, everybody died. There is a slight part of me though that once they explain that it's the Rutans, I'm like, oh. I don't know. I was just kind of like, I don't know. This is interesting, weird jellyfish thing, and then I was like, nah, this is the Rutans. Let's just go with that. Screw it.
But I'm glad that it harkened back to the Sontarans. That was cool.
Yeah.
And I understand why everybody had to die. Because if they didn't, they would be talking about aliens from outer space. And so, I'm sure the Doctor didn't mean for everybody to die, but understood that it was best that way. Because now it's just some mysterious illness that happened to kill all these people there at the lighthouse.
Well, alrighty. Well, yeah, it was certainly an interesting, spooky Halloween episode that, you know, it's just sort of strange how that works out, you know?
Yeah.
Because I remember, I want to say, it was when I started. Yeah, it was when I started in 2018 with Doctor Who. And it just so happened that, like, one of the most terrifying episodes, like, it was the introduction of the Weeping Angels. You know about them?
I've heard, but I haven't seen them.
Yeah. They're pretty terrifying. They're these statues that only move when you're not looking at them. So anytime you blink, they've moved, like, you know, really close to you, and it's terrifying. And it just so happened that also landed on Halloween. So this, while the Rutan is not as terrifying as the Weeping Angel. That was it. I've already forgotten. It's been a little while. It was still an interesting thing.
But yeah, now here's the thing. We were kind of joking about the, you know, jellyfish in the earlier episodes when we saw it. But when we got to the one climbing the stairs and talking to the Doctor, it actually made sense. I mean, they did a lot of really good mat work to see this giant blob trying to climb the steps. Like you said, would have been much easier if he had stayed in his biped form.
Yeah.
But that ended up working. I think, as we have said many times before, in the previous episodes, if they had just only seen like a glow in the fog, that would have been a little spookier. And then to see it there at the end, though, we'd be going, oh, okay, that's okay. Now we understand who they are. They're this kind of, you know, amorphous. I don't even know what you would call it. Just this blob, basically.
Yeah.
That turns out to be somebody we've actually heard of before. We've just never met them.
Yeah.
And although I question the Earth being of any kind of strategic location that would do them any good, because, I mean, after all, we're not on the outer rim of the galaxy, but we're out far enough in the boondocks that, like the Doctor said, I don't think the Sontarans would find any advantage to a place like this.
Granted, at the same time, the Santarans have done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You know, like the only thing I could think. Like if they had thrown in a line, I assume the reason that they go throughout the entire solar system and they choose Earth specifically, I assume that's because Earth has water, and though they can adapt to land, they are by nature aquatic.
Yeah.
So I could see that. Maybe the explanation further than that is this is the only planet with water for a while, across multiple systems.
But they also talked about the fact that they preferred cold, and as we've already established in Doctor Who lore, is that Mars has ice on it, where, of course, then they'd have to deal with the Ice Warriors. But overall, an enjoyable story. And again, I wish they had done a little bit more of the facetiousness, the joking around that they did in the last episode in the first 3, but I understand why they did not.
Yeah. And honestly, the whole thing of, why do the aliens always go to Earth? I mean, the obvious answer is because you need to have humans.
Yes.
You put it on Earth because, of course. Why do you put it in London? Because it's a British show, or in England in this case. But yeah, it's also the same thing of like anytime on Star Trek where it's like, oh, we're the only ship in range, and it's like every time. Like, once you really stop and think... Like, I think the worst might be in Star Trek V, and for obvious reasons, it's Star Trek V. But I think it's something like, the Enterprise is currently undergoing extensive repairs, but they're the only ship in range of this whatever was happening in that movie. And...
Why does God need a starship?
Yeah. So I can understand why... It is just a little funny, though, that both sides of this war, the Santarans and the Rutans, have both ended up on Earth somewhere.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and also in a historical setting, you know, further back in time. So, so yeah, interesting stuff. We had a bit of the debate between oil and electricity, but it didn't really it didn't need to continue any more than that. But it was just to set up Ben and Ruben and Vince. So, and then after that, we had the crash introducing the rest of the soon-to-be dead people, who, to be honest, I guess when you really stop and think about it, how much did they really add? Like, what was his name? Skinsdale?
Skinsdale.
Yeah, he at least offered a little bit, and even at the end he did stuff because he was the soldier. But for the most part, Adelaide and Palmerdale and Harker, it's like they didn't do a lot. They didn't. It was basically adding more characters for the Doctor to talk to.
It's what some very bad military leaders call cannon fodder.
Yeah.
And Skinsdale, there at the end, a slightly better ending for him, rather than stopping to pick up the rest of the diamonds, is if he saw that the Rutan was getting too close, and he literally tried to jump on it to stop it, going out as a warrior, going out as a hero. Because right there, I mean, it looked like he was just trying to grab some diamonds, and then he got, strangled.
Yeah, it was basically, the Doctor comically throws away the diamonds, and, the human there is thinking, wow, I can still use these diamonds for when I get out of here. And then that ended up killing him. And there wasn't a moment by the Doctor of okay, maybe I should have just put this in my pocket or something, because, if you hadn't thrown them down, he would still be alive.
That was a move, reminded me of, what was her name, Ilsa in The Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Where, if she had simply let go of the Holy Grail, she could have lived.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what happens to Indy, because he's tempted by it, but he gives up, and Sean Connery's able to save him.
Yeah.
So,
spoilers for those of you who haven't seen The Last Crusade.
Which you really should. So,
yes.
It's not like that at least is not a major a twist or something that happens. It's a big moment, but it shouldn't ruin the experience. But go watch Last Crusade. It's probably the best of the Indiana Jones movies.
And before we start talking about this on the the actual finished product, maybe you should go in and put one of those little spoiler alerts.
Yeah. So yeah, I will try to remember. I'm gonna bet you I didn't though. So I'm gonna bet you I didn't remember to put in a little like spoiler thing for Last Crusade. But it is one of those movies though that it's like it's so old at this point that I feel like everybody would know anyway. So if they haven't already seen it,
I got in trouble not giving. Well, I did give a spoiler alert on the mousetrap thing, but got criticism for it anyway. Anyway.
But yeah, so all of them, I mean, they were interesting enough. If they were a bit funnier, I could have probably enjoyed them more. But as they were okay. The conflict between Palmerdale and Skinsdale,
Skinsale, I think.
Skinsale, that was it. It was interesting, even if I don't want to say it didn't go anywhere because I know I'll get in trouble if I say that. But I don't know. It just felt like, well, we have to have more people here because we've already killed off,
I think part of that, though, again, that it's not that we don't appreciate it, is we didn't have the history behind that. The British, especially during the Victorian era, there was a huge class divide. There were the extremely wealthy, then there were the military, and then there were the lower and working classes. So, to a British audience, that would have made way more sense. And it's not that it doesn't make sense to us, it's just that we don't see that as much because we don't see a whole lot of either television shows or American movies set during that time period.
Yeah. I mean, like, I could see Palmerdale being in, like, was it Around the World in 80 Days,
or the Titanic.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, but it's also just the fact that their squabble is not really... It's that they're having this, internal conflict about, the money and, I got to get this message to London and no, I can't let you do that and all that. And also there's a jellyfish trying to kill everybody, It's like, it's fine, you can do that, but it's not the most important thing we're focusing on, But still, I mean, I guess it does establish those characters immediately, why they crashed because Palmerdale forced them to go out in that kind of fog.
Yeah. They said they were coming back from the casino, but again, I am not familiar with the southern coast of England, where they would have been that they needed to get back to London so quickly. But I will look up to see where the lighthouses are there. Again, the most famous one, of course, is at Land's End, but that's on the far southwestern end of England. Down in the Devon and Cornwall area. So this is probably somewhere a little bit east of that, but I'll have to look it up to be sure.
Yeah. And, it honestly makes me think now, I wonder if this was a real lighthouse, if Fang Rock was a real lighthouse, and maybe there was this story of the early, in the 1820s of, two people dying, the other two gone mad, Yeah. So maybe it is just that they adapted it from that, so... Entirely possible. Of course, that does bring up the question of, was that a Rutan? But it must not have been. So that's just another thing that happened to happen, I guess.
Yeah.
It just happens to fit in well with what was going on here. So, but yeah. We also had Palmerdale was also killed. And then, I mean, I also just wrote down Leela slapping the girl. I don't remember her name. Yeah, let me see if... Oh, it was Adelaide, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
And by the way, Skinsale's hair... I would love for my hair to do that, just to go completely white, because I can't tell you how weird it is to have a completely white beard and mustache and one eyebrow that's starting to go white and a spray of gray, and then the rest of it is dark as it is. It makes no sense.
I mean, I feel like it's, contrasting colors, though, Like, it's not everything. I mean, it at least helps you not look 70 years old. So there's at least that, you know. So yeah, but I did make specific note of Leela slapping Adelaide.
That was funny. That was really cool.
Yeah. So and it's just the interesting thing. Oh, I mean, first off, we also got. So has it been in every episode that Leela has thrown her knife at somebody and it doesn't hit?
It seems like that.
Yeah.
Although, didn't it hit the robot, but it didn't do anything?
It hit the robot, but it didn't do anything. She threw... There wasn't another one between robots and Talons, was there? No, I think it just went straight. So after that, in Talons, she threw the knife at the Mr. Sin, and it just sort of caught, but it didn't do anything. And now... she tried throwing one at the Rutan and it didn't do anything. And I just hope this keeps going, that she will never actually hit something with her knife. And we also had, I mean, I feel like this was like the most hostile Leela's ever been, because wasn't there another moment where she threatened to cut out Palmerdale's heart or something? Yeah.
Well, like, again, this would have been appreciated much more by the British audience, because she's acting on behalf of the working class, who literally say, you extremely wealthy people do not understand life, and I'm getting so sick of your belly aching about, I've got to be around, only people of my own kind. She'd rather say, I'd rather just gut you right now like a fish than listen to you complain anymore. So I'm sure that was very humorous to the British audience of the 1970s.
Yeah, and it is, because it's interesting, because she does work well with the Doctor, but then in those moments it's all the funnier because also on top of the fact that the Doctor slightly has to use that to his advantage, because he knows that he can count on Leela to do something. It's just how far will she go in doing that. And then there was the moment with her at the end of celebrating the death of the Rutan. And it's interesting, the Doctor saying, it's like, oh, well, I don't have time to teach you morality right now. And it's like, I don't think she's going to learn it. Just leave her be. She's not, it's weird to say that she's not hurting anyone when she's clearly threatening everybody. And I guess she did hurt Adelaide. She did slap her. But still, it's nothing too terrible. She hasn't gone too far. Well, she did kill a Chinese guy last episode, so...
Well, again, I hate to say this because it sounds so incredibly sexist, but that was very common in Victorian times. When women began to get hysterical, many times they would simply be slapped because the pain would bring them out of that. In the show that I directed, the last show that I directed, before Cyrano, I did Gaslight. And at the end of that play, Mrs. Manningham, when she finds out her husband is actually the one who's been driving her crazy and is actually a murderer, she gets very hysterical. And in the script it says that Inspector Ruff shakes her, and when she doesn't stop, he slaps her, and then she calms down. I cut that out because I don't think that a modern-day audience would countenance a man under any conditions slapping a woman like that.
Yeah, so... so a modern audience would, I guess, maybe will be more accepting of Leela doing that. So, and honestly, just the fact that it's still in character for Leela to do that. Leela would slap anybody. She is an equal opportunity slapper. So, but yeah, so it is sort of an interesting thing that once you get the reveal of the Rutan, I don't know. It's such a strange, like, I don't know how to describe it. That to me, at the very least, it's like, oh, well, we've dispelled the mystery and everything. And I mean, I guess I knew it was going to be an alien, but then actually seeing it is like, okay, this is weird. Like, I don't know. Like, for me, it almost took away the atmosphere, but keeping it right at the very end, then I could enjoy the story of it being the Rutan. And tying it in with the Santarans was interesting.
A minor thing. From its point of view, it always seemed to be a Cyclops. But if you noticed, on the front end of the Rutan blob, it did have two almost concentric swirls to make it look like it had, binary vision. But it only saw the one thing, the one point of view, when you were looking from its point.
Yeah, so...
minor. thing.
Yeah. I would also be curious. Well, I guess we can see who did the voice of the Rutan.
Oh, Peter Grimwade. People were talking about how the fear of the robots was called the Grimwade syndrome. They named it after their guy.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I was going to look at that, although I don't know the original voice of the Daleks, was it sounded very close to the Daleks. So, and honestly,
it has a special sound there, but I imagine that's just sound effects.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe people can leave that in the comments because it sounded very similar. And honestly, for a little while, I was kind of thinking like maybe it could be a Dalek of some sort, just a Dalek out of its shell, basically. Yeah. But yeah, so. Yeah, and then we had everything with the maroons and the gunpowder and blasting the thing and then using the lighthouse to blast the mothership, which was interesting. And yeah, just another. I mean, it's hilarious that basically the same thing happened to the Rutans that happened to the Santarans, you know? So, is that, they have this entire fleet, and you had the one guy on the planet who, for some reason, is on this planet, and then the Doctor beats that and then beats the fleet, and there you go. So
now, one last little thing for me. In the comments, somebody talked about the fact that when they hired Louise Jameson, who was playing Leela, that they gave her, like, brown contacts because they didn't want her to be blue-eyed or something like that, and that was constantly causing her trouble. And at the end here, they work in the Flash that she looks back into the Flash and goes blind for a moment, but when she recovers, the Doctor goes, "Oh, it changed your eye color." She goes, "Oh, really? What are they now?" "Oh, they're blue now." So, I mean, that's unless you know that, I would have never thought about why would they put in something about changing her eye color. But apparently it was because the actress didn't like wearing the contacts.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, I get that. It is, I guess it's a strange thing that it's like, oh, well, because... You know, she's from this more savage culture that she can't have blue eyes, you know? It's like, okay, I guess I can see the correlation maybe, but it's just a strange thing. But yeah, that is hilarious that they had to write that in specifically so that they could write. I mean, look, I never noticed her eye color. If you had shown me, like, maybe unless, you know, next episode I'm gonna like look at her eyes and they're gonna be, you know, bright blue, maybe then I would have been like, hey, wait a minute, what happened to her eyes? But honestly, I wouldn't have gotten that. We're watching this, you know, on a 1080p monitor in, you know, 2022. People watching this on an old CRT in 1997 or 1977, excuse me. I don't know how much they would have noticed that either, you know, but good. At least they did that so that, because wasn't that also the thing with Jo, that her eyesight was terrible? So a lot of the time, especially when they were running around, John Pertwee had to hold her hand so that she wouldn't stumble around. So yeah, you need to work on that. You need to not, you know, mess with your actor's eyes that much. So, but yeah, you got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right, then.
What's up next?
Next up is The Invisible Enemy.
Okay.
How many times have we had an invisible enemy? And now we're getting a whole episode about it. So,
is it a 4-parter or a 6?
I'm sure it's a 4-parter. I think what they're doing is every episode is 4 parts except the last one, which is 6 parts. Okay. So yeah, we'll get to that next week. So with all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. And happy Halloween. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another playlist for all of my modern Doctor Who reactions, with a new reaction should be towards the bottom of that one. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.